This is Erica Freas here from Death Radio.
Wir werden alle sterben. Die Erde wird sich auch ohne uns weiter drehen. Wir werden alle sterben.
Endlich! Wir reden über den Tod.
Hallo liebe Sterbliche, hier ist der Endlich Podcast Nummer 14. Das ist unsere neue Begrüßung, haben wir uns überlegt. So wie die alten Griechen das gemacht haben. Ja, oder wir wissen es irgendwie immer noch nicht genau. Ich habe es mit meiner Freundin, die Lateinlehrerin ist, diskutiert. Und die meinte also, von den Römern käme es nicht. Da würde nur zu den Gladiatoren liebe Todgeweihte gesagt. Von jemandem, der da eine Rede hält zu denen. Ja, das sind nämlich morituri te salutant. Ganz genau, das ist das, was ich beim letzten Mal rausgeschnitten habe. Deswegen hat keiner eine Ahnung, worüber du gerade gesprochen hast. Und das mit den Sterblichen habe ich dann mit jemand anderem diskutiert. Könnte tatsächlich nur von den Griechen kommen, weil da gab es ja die Götter, die ja die Unsterblichen sind, und die Sterblichen. Naja, und jetzt erstmal müssen wir sagen, ich bin Caro und neben mir sitzt auf der Endlich Couch Susanne, hallo. Ja, wir haben heute mal wieder eine Tod- und Popkultur-Folge. Jetzt schon die zweite. Die erste hatten wir ja mit George Cameron und heute haben wir Erica Freas zu Gast und ich bin Fangirl. Du musst mal kurz sagen, wer Erica Freas ist für die Leute, die sie nicht kennen. Genau. Wie mich zum Beispiel. Erica ist eine Musikerin und man kennt die in erster Linie von ihrer Band, die sie, glaube ich, seit 10 Jahren hat, Reviver. Das ist eine Hardcore-Band, die auch so in queeren Kreisen sehr beliebt ist. Und die kommen aus Olympia, Washington. Und sie macht aber auch ganz wunderschöne Musik seit ein paar Jahren nur. Sie singt und spielt Gitarre und spielt auch ein bisschen Cello, so Singer-Songwriter-mäßig. Und ich habe immer gedacht, Mann, als ich ihre Lieder gehört habe, wir müssten die eigentlich mal einladen, weil es da echt oft um den Tod geht. In den Liedern? In den Liedern. Und jetzt ist sie tatsächlich in Berlin und hat Ja gesagt. Yes! Voll toll. Super. Genau, und wir werden sie natürlich auch so ein bisschen dazu befragen, wie wird eigentlich mit dem Tod in Amerika, also in US-Amerika, wie sagt man das? In USA. In USA. Wie wird in USA so mit dem Tod umgegangen? Ja. Und natürlich auch so der Umgang mit dem Tod in der Punk- und Hardcore-Szene. Das interessiert mich alles. Das interessiert mich auch sehr. Und das Verrückte ist, das wird auf Englisch stattfinden. Ja, das ist unser erster englischsprachiger Gast. Und da müsst ihr jetzt durch. Ja, und wir auch. Wir müssen uns auch so ein bisschen einen abkorksen. Aber das werden wir alle aushalten. Das wird kein Problem. Ich bin ehrlich gesagt auch ein bisschen aufgeregt, dass wir Englisch sprechen müssen. Mal gucken, wie das funktioniert. Ich wollte aber noch mal so ein paar Sachen shoutouten. Vielleicht sollten wir eine neue Kolumne dafür einführen, für so mit so einem Jingle, so News. Neuigkeiten. Kannst du es vielleicht ein bisschen, so ein kleines bisschen poppiger machen, weil es ja eine Popkultur-Folge. Das klang jetzt wie 70er Jahre heute. Neuigkeiten. Nee? Ja. Genau, die Neuigkeiten sind nämlich, wir sind ganz stolz, weil wir gerade von Zeit Online hier Top of the Pods gewählt wurden. Neben Ira Glass und Jonathan Van Ness. Und ich finde, das ist ein sehr angemessenes Umfeld für uns. Frau Bauerfeind war auch noch dabei, glaube ich. Ja. Darüber haben wir uns sehr gefreut. Und es gibt weitere gute Nachrichten. Wir sind nämlich für den Podcastpreis 2019 nominiert worden. Und jetzt müsst ihr nämlich voten. Also da werden Hörerstimmen entgegengenommen. Und wir sind in der Kategorie Bildung nominiert. Wie findest du das eigentlich, Caro, dass wir in der Kategorie Bildung sind? Ich finde das sehr angemessen. Wirklich? Ich hätte uns eher in die Kategorie Unterhaltung gebracht. Aber da hätten wir so harte Konkurrenz gehabt mit so Leuten, die so millionenfache Sachen haben. Da sind auch echt ein paar interessante andere Sachen dabei. Hast du das mal angeschaut? Ja, The Rise and Shine ist da, glaube ich, das ist auch cool, ja. Aber es gibt auch die agile Schule zum Beispiel. Fand ich sehr interessant. Das ist ein Podcast darüber, wie man so agile Strukturen in den Schulalltag integrieren kann. Ja, also sowas ist da auch dabei. Sehr hands-on. Und man kann für 3 Leute stimmen, für 3 verschiedene Podcasts. Genau, ihr könnt 3 Podcasts in einer Kategorie wählen. Aber macht das wäre total super. Weitere Neuigkeiten. Wir haben haben eine weitere Understanding-Mitgliedschaft bei Steady. Ihr könnt auf unserer Webseite endlich CC so Pakete euch aussuchen, wo ihr uns monatlich unterstützt. Das fängt bei 1 Euro an, weil wir ja mit dem Podcast kein Geld verdienen, aber durchaus einige laufende Kosten haben. Und da hat Astrid Deutsch die Understanding-Mitgliedschaft abgeschlossen. Und wir sagen 1000 Dank, Astrid.
Danke, Astrid.
Das ist super. Ich habe übrigens überlegt, Susanne, wir könnten mal so kleine Haikus für unsere Understanding-UnterstützerInnen machen demnächst.
Dichten. Du möchtest, dass wir Haikus für... Das möchtest du.
Ich fände das
Vielleicht
toll.
sollten wir solche Sachen vor der Aufnahme besprechen, damit wir so...
Okay.
Ja.
Okay, also...
Aber okay, vielleicht.
Ihr könnt ja uns schreiben, ob ihr das gut fändet, wenn wir so kleine Haikus für euch schreiben würden. Okay, nächstes Thema. Ach genau, ich wollte noch sagen, ein weiteres Dankeschön, wenn ihr uns bei Steady unterstützt, ist eine CD mit unserer ultimativen endlich Beerdigungsplaylist. Und ich muss sagen, wir sind in die CD-Produktion gegangen. Die sind alle handgemacht mit sehr viel Liebe von uns. Und ich habe echt ein bisschen geweint, als ich mir die Playlist angehört habe.
Okay, also das ist was für Leute mit PMS oder die ein bisschen traurig sein wollen gerade. Oder vielleicht auch Leute, die gute Musik für eine Beerdigung brauchen.
Ja, also da sind wirklich echt schöne Songs drauf. Könnt ihr euch ja auch mal angucken.
Ja. Hast du denn irgendwelche Sachen, die dich gerade so beschäftigen im Zusammenhang mit Todkaro?
Ja, also ich habe sowas gehabt, was mich aus unserem letzten Podcast so ein bisschen beschäftigt hat.
Oha,
weil da war ja Roland Schulz zu Gast und der hat ja was gesagt, was mir echt so ein bisschen zu denken gegeben hat. Der sagte so, dass die Beschäftigung mit dem Tod das Leben ja so intensiv leuchten lässt. Dass er das Gefühl hatte, dass das sozusagen dieser Effekt ist und dass er aber auch glaubt, dass man das nicht dauerhaft herstellen kann. Und das fand ich ganz interessant, weil das meinem Gefühl widerspricht. Ich habe das so verstanden, dass das ja sozusagen so eine Art künstliches Leuchten ist, ne? Also sozusagen, dass man das in dem Kontrast dazu kriegt es dann so eine Art künstliche Intensität. Oder zumindest habe ich das so verstanden und dass es auch gar nicht wünschenswert ist, dass es diese Intensität die ganze Zeit hat. Und meine Erfahrung ist wirklich ein bisschen eine andere, weil ich habe ja im Moment ganz extrem das Gefühl, dass so die Beschäftigung mit dem Tod ganz viele Auswirkungen auf mein Leben hat. Und ich habe aber das Gefühl, dass das auf so eine ganz sanfte, organische und ja eben auch bei so ganz kleinen Dingen, also dass das gar nichts so krasses, das wird jetzt angeleuchtet ist, sondern dass das so ganz viele kleine Dinge sind, die man erstmal vielleicht auch gar nicht merkt und dann plötzlich hat sich aber irgendwie was verändert und es hat aber was ganz, Organisches, Natürliches irgendwie.
Ich habe dazu eine Theorie.
Bitte.
Ich glaube, dass ihr zwei unterschiedliche Sachen meint, Roland und du.
Ah, ja.
Ich glaube, dass Roland, ich meine, er hat ja auch in unserem Podcast gesagt, dass er sich nicht damit befasst hat, mit dem Sterben und dem Tod, weil er selbst betroffen ist, sondern aus so einem journalistischen Interesse heraus. Ja. Dass er einfach wissen wollte, genau wie er bei der Geburt seiner Kinder wissen wollte, wie das alles funktioniert, wollte er genauso wissen, also so ein Erkenntnisinteresse, wie funktioniert das? Und das ist dieses reine intellektuelle Interesse am Tod, was ich auch faszinierend finde. Aber ich glaube, was es halt so organisch und so natürlich macht, ist, dass sich das nicht aussuchen kann, ob man sich damit beschäftigt oder nicht. Und wenn man eben da so reingeschmissen wird, indem man Leute verliert, die man liebt, die einfach sterben und man in dieser Situation drin hängt, ob man jetzt will oder nicht und eben die Kontrolle ein Stück weit abgeben muss. Weil er hat sie ja nicht abgegeben. Er hat es sich dafür entschieden, das zu machen. Und das ist auch so ein sehr rationaler Vorgang. Und dann, wenn man dann irgendwas erkennt, durch Recherche oder Interviews und so, klar leuchtet das dann. Also natürlich, so Erkenntnis leuchtet immer, finde ich. Und das kann nicht halten, weil irgendwann ist Erkenntnis, das ist halt auch so zeitlich begrenzt. Irgendwann ist die Erkenntnis vorbei und dann hört's auf. Aber wenn du da reingeschmissen bist und dich damit auseinandersetzt, bewusst, und das über einen längeren Zeitraum auch machst, so wie wir das machen, dass es dann einfach so reinsickert.
Ja,
vielleicht
genau.
Eher in dein
sickert
Leben.
rein.
Ja.
Das ist ein total guter Ausdruck dafür. Ja, und dass es auch auf so einer tiefen Ebene wirkt. Das finde ich total toll.
Es sickert so ins untere Hautgewebe.
Oh, du bist so poetisch, Susanne.
Ich frage mich, woher das kommt. Es muss auch der Tod sein.
Ja. Ja, aber das finde ich eine einleuchtende Theorie tatsächlich.
Ja, damit habe ich mich aber auch auseinandergesetzt. Da habe ich auch drüber nachgedacht, warum er das gesagt hat und wie er das so empfunden hat auch. Und dass er ja auch oft gemeint hat, dass es gar nicht so gut findet, wenn man, oder das andere, also er hat nie gesagt, dass er das nicht gut findet, aber er hat gesagt, dass Leute ihm berichtet hätten, die da arbeiten, dass sie das nicht so gut finden, wenn Leute selbst betroffen sind und sich dann irgendwie als Bestatter oder weiß ich nicht was verdingen. Und das hat mich auch, habe ich ein bisschen drüber gegrübelt und dachte, warum? Aber
das ist total interessant. Das sind genau die Dinge, die mich auch beschäftigt haben, weil ich ja eben auch genau den umgekehrten Fall oft kenne, ne? Dass es eben Leute sind, die quer einsteigen über eine persönliche Beschäftigung oder über ein persönliches Erlebnis, was sie damit hatten. Und dass ich ja immer das Gefühl hatte, dass sie gerade deswegen ihren Job besonders gut machen.
ja, genau.
Naja, und auch, das habe ich in meiner Sterbebegleiterausbildung gelernt, also sozusagen, Hollands Theorie war ja, man hängt dann da einfach emotional so sehr drin und ist auch so persönlich betroffen. Das kann man dann nur eine gewisse Zeit lang so machen und dann ist man so erschöpft, dass man das nicht mehr machen kann. Und in meiner Ausbildung zur Sterbebegleitung wurde versucht, uns das zu vermitteln, dass man zwar Dinge an sich ranlassen kann und sollte und dass es aber trotzdem einen Unterschied gibt sozusagen zwischen eben Mitleid und Mitgefühl, also dass man eben dieses Mitleiden und tatsächlich mit drinstecken, dass das nochmal was anderes ist als Mitgefühl haben und eben was an sich ranzulassen, aber es eben nicht so weit kommen zu lassen, dass es dich so angeht, dass du es mit nach Hause nimmst und dass es dich halt dann nach 10 Jahren dazu bringt, dass du nicht mehr Bestatter sein kannst oder Sterbebegleiter oder was auch immer. Fand ich ganz, ganz interessant. Ja.
Hast du noch was anderes mitgenommen?
Ja, also ich hatte vor kurzem wieder mal so ein Erlebnis, wo ich echt dachte, Mann, wie intensiv einen diese Dinge doch auch weiterhin begleiten. Und zwar war das auf der Premiere von dem aktuellen Sarggeschichten-Film. Darin geht es eben um begleitete Kremation, also wie man eben auch mit ins Krematorium gehen kann und da sozusagen wirklich dabei sein kann, wenn der Sarg in den Ofen fährt und verbrannt wird und was man demjenigen noch alles mitgeben kann und so weiter und so fort. Und das war total interessant, weil ich war ja nun selbst schon bei meinem Bestatterpraktikum bei Kremationen dabei, bei begleiteten Kremationen und habe das alles mir vor Ort angeguckt. Und da gab es aber trotzdem wieder so einen Moment, als wir diesen Film angeguckt haben, wo mich das so angegangen ist, dass ich das bei Stefan nicht hatte. Und dass wir eben, als Stefan, mein Ex-Freund, gestorben ist, so einen Anruf bekommen haben, am Tag, nachdem er kremiert worden ist. Ja, übrigens, der Leichnam ist gestern auch kremiert worden. Und mich hat das ja so schockiert, dass ich wirklich das Gefühl hatte, okay, der ist jetzt gerade nochmal gestorben. Und das ist mir bei dieser Sarggeschichten-Premiere nochmal so krass hochgekommen, dass ich so wirklich nochmal dran denken musste, wie das dann passiert ist, dass er alleine war, dass niemand wusste, was er eigentlich anhatte. Niemand hat dem irgendwelche Kleider gebracht, die er anziehen sollte. Und ich finde das so schlimm. Das ist was ich wirklich, obwohl ich mich so viel damit beschäftige und mich so viel damit auseinandergesetzt habe, was ich so mit mir rumtrage immer noch. Und da ist mir einfach mal wieder klar geworden, wie wichtig das ist, eben was die Sarggeschichten machen oder was Bestatterinnen und Bestatter machen, dass die einfach informieren und dass man weiß, was möglich ist. Ja. Und dass die Leute informierte Entscheidungen treffen können. Und dass man eben dem Bestatter sagen kann, ich möchte wissen, wann der Mensch verbrannt wird. Oder ich möchte sogar dabei sein, wenn er verbrannt wird. Und da eben nicht so völlig unwissend in so eine Situation geworfen werden, die man dann einfach nicht mehr rückgängig machen kann.
Ja, das stimmt.
Und das ist so scheiße. Das ist so, das passiert genau so, wie es passiert. Und dann kannst du das nicht mehr zurückholen. Ja. Und das ist ein Kack.
Ja. Ja. Dann kannst du es nur noch vergessen, entweder.
Ja, oder halt so Stück für Stück irgendwie damit umgehen, ne, so lernen. Aber es ist eine krasse Last, die man da mit sich rumträgt und hat echt weitreichende Auswirkungen. Und deswegen glaube ich, das drüber sprechen und das Informieren und gute Berater haben, ist echt wichtig. Also tragt das in die Welt hinaus, ihr Sterblichen.
Ich finde das immer so krass, wenn du solche Sachen sagst, weil ich habe das gar nicht so. Das ist komisch.
Was meinst du?
Naja, ich meine, das ist ja, du weißt ja, ich habe noch nie jemanden gesehen, der tot ist, dabei ist irgendwie von meiner Familie noch eine einzige Person übrig. Ja. Also das ist eigentlich auch ein totales Unding. Aber ich habe da auch, ich weiß nicht, wenn ich da dran denke, dass ich da dabei, also ich hätte mich vielleicht auch ein bisschen überfordert gefühlt, glaube ich. Also mir hat natürlich keiner irgendwas gesagt und der Bestatter war so maximal abwehrend allem gegenüber und hat halt uns einfach nur eine Rechnung gegeben, die wir uns anschauen durften, um dann zu sagen, aber warum ist das der teure Sarg oder sowas. Und ich glaube, ich habe sogar gefragt, ob wir ihn nochmal anschauen dürfen, meinen Bruder. Und dann hat er halt so vehement gesagt, nein. Und auch so dieser Kriminalbeamte halt vorher schon. Ja. Und meine Mutter saß da und hat die ganze Zeit geweint und ich habe die ganze Zeit geweint und wir waren einfach so völlig fertig, dass keiner von uns auch nur annähernd in der Lage gewesen wäre zu sagen, doch, wir wollen es aber.
Ja. Ja, aber genau das ist ja der Punkt. Ich glaube, es geht ja wirklich gar nicht darum, dass man das machen muss oder dass man das machen soll, wenn man das Gefühl hat, dass es nicht gut für einen ist. Ne?
Ja, stimmt schon.
Aber dass eben in dem Moment du eine informierte Entscheidung treffen kannst. So. Und das halt in dem Moment, und deswegen sage ich ja immer dieses, wie wichtig gute Berater sind, wenn da eben jemand sitzt, der dir erklärt, warum bestimmte Dinge wichtig sind und der dir erklärt, was du zu erwarten hast und was du nicht zu erwarten hast und der im Zweifelsfall sich den Toten eben vorher anguckt und dir genau erklärt, wie der aussieht, was du zu erwarten hast, wenn du da reingehst und dich von dem verabschiedest. Und wenn du dann entscheiden kannst, willst du das machen oder willst du das nicht machen, dann ist das, glaube ich, einfach eine komplett andere Situation. Ja, und das hätte ich mir halt einfach sehr gewünscht, weil ich habe ja nun heute eine sehr große Offenheit diesen Dingen gegenüber. Und damals, als Stefan gestorben ist, hätte ich das von mir aus aber auch niemals gemacht. Ja. Aber wenn sich jemand mit mir hingesetzt hätte und gesagt hätte, pass mal auf, meine Erfahrung mit Leuten, die das gemacht haben und die sich verabschiedet haben, ist die und die und die, dann hätte ich da definitiv nochmal drüber nachgedacht. Und ich bin mir heute relativ sicher, dass ich das gemacht hätte, wenn mich jemand an die Hand genommen hätte.
Ja.
So.
Ja. Jemand, dem man vertrauen kann dann halt auch. Ne? Das ist ja auch so die Sache. Ja. Weil in den meisten Fällen kennt man diese Leute ja überhaupt nicht, mit denen man da zu tun hat. Ja. Die treten zum ersten Mal in dein Leben in einem Moment, wo du in einer krassen Krise bist und eigentlich gar nicht normal auf die reagieren kannst. Und wenn die dann nicht irgendwie besonders einfühlsam sind oder du das Gefühl hast, dass sie dir wohlwollend sind überhaupt. Ja. Also man hat ja eher so das Gefühl, die wollen da jetzt schnell wieder ihre Ruhe haben und das ist halt so Business as usual. Ja. Ja. Also das war eher so, aber ich weiß immer noch nicht. Ich glaube, ich hätte ihn mir vielleicht meinen Bruder mir trotzdem nicht angeguckt. Aber dann hätte ich es entscheiden können und dann wäre es was anderes gewesen, hast du recht. Ja.
Tja. So ist das.
Hoch, jetzt haben wir hier schon wieder so lange darüber geredet, ne?
Das stimmt.
Über die Dinge. Also sind wir schon wieder am Ende, Caro, mit unserem Teil heute.
Ja.
Und über Popkultur?
Am Ende.
Und über Popkultur reden wir gleich mit Erica, wenn sie kommt. Auf Englisch.
Auf Englisch.
Also wenn ihr uns nicht ertragen könnt mit unserem deutschen Akzent, dann müsst ihr euch nur noch die Fahrradgedanken anhören, denn die kommen jetzt.
Genau. Und ich habe mir heute ein Zitat ausgesucht. Das Zitat kommt aus dem Buch Die Kunst, sich selbst auszuhalten von Michael Bort.
Ist das so ein esoterisches Buch, Caro?
Das ist ein philosophisches Buch.
Ah, gut. Da bin ich beruhigt.
Fahrradgedanken.
Sich selbst auszuhalten und bei sich bleiben zu können, bedeutet auch zu akzeptieren, dass es einen Aspekt in unserem Leben gibt, den wir gerne ausblenden, der aber unausweichlich ist. Die Einsamkeit unserer Existenz. Unsere Einsamkeit hängt damit zusammen, dass nur wir selbst in unserer eigenen Haut stecken. Nur wir selbst wissen, wie es sich anfühlt, unser Leben zu leben und wir selbst zu sein. Natürlich können wir versuchen, vieles davon anderen Menschen zu erzählen, vor allem denen, die wir lieben, und sie dadurch in die Perspektive, die wir unserem eigenen Leben gegenüber haben, mit hineinzunehmen. Wenn wir jemanden lieben oder in einer tiefen Freundschaft mit jemandem verbunden sind, dann wollen wir von ihm verstanden werden. Wir wollen, dass eine gute Freundin nachvollziehen kann, warum wir so fühlen, wie wir fühlen,
warum wir so reagieren, wie wir reagieren, warum wir bestimmte Vorlieben haben, warum uns bestimmte Musik besonders gefällt und andere nicht und warum wir so geworden sind, wie wir geworden sind. Sich der Einsamkeit zu stellen, setzt auch voraus, mutig und kraftvoll der Tatsache ins Auge zu sehen, dass wir einmal sterben werden. Nicht ohne Grund hat Hans Fallada seinem Roman den Titel Jeder stirbt für sich allein gegeben. Es gibt in der Philosophie und in den Religionen eine Tradition der Ars Moriendi, der Kunst des Sterbens. Zweifelsohne hat es in dieser Tradition problematische Auswüchse gegeben, aber der Sache nach geht es gerade nicht darum, sich mit voller Absicht aus einem guten Leben heraus in die Depression zu stürzen. Es geht darum, in unserem Leben die Tiefe zuzulassen, ohne die unser Leben zunehmend verflacht oder, wenn Stress dazukommt, zu einem Leben im Hamsterrad wird. Wenn wir unserer Sterblichkeit bewusst sind, bringt uns das die Beziehungen, die wir haben und die Aufgaben, denen wir nachkommen, in ihrer Einmaligkeit näher. Das Leben verkommt nicht zu einer Abfolge von immer gleichen Stunden und Tagen, sondern bekommt eine Tiefendimension, die uns erfüllter leben lässt. Auch wenn wir in der Vergegenwärtigung unserer eigenen Sterblichkeit, unserer existenziellen Einsamkeit gewahr werden, es ist diese Einsamkeit, die unserem Leben Tiefe geben kann. Tiefe und Kreativität, die aus der Einzigartigkeit des eigenen Lebens erwächst. Sollten wir also zunächst noch den Eindruck haben, dass es unserem Leben Kraft und Freude nähme, stellten wir uns diese Einsamkeit, zeigt sich doch, dass es genau andersherum ist. Die Einsamkeit an sich heranzulassen, kann alles andere als lebensverneinend sein, sondern zu einer tieferen Freude führen, zu einem neuen Geschmack an unserem Leben. Freilich geht das nicht von heute auf morgen, von jetzt auf gleich. Die Umwertung unserer Einsamkeit braucht Zeit. Man muss sich mit ihr befreunden und das ist ein Prozess, den man sich normalerweise in Phasen stellt, in denen einem das Leben fraglicher wird, brüchiger und zerbrechlicher erscheint, in denen der eigene Tod plötzlich näher rückt und die eigene Existenz in Frage stellt. Unsere Kultur steht diesem wichtigen Prozess dabei entgegen, denn wo Aktivität, Arbeit und Leistung so sehr geschätzt werden, wird jede Auseinandersetzung mit der Einsamkeit, dem Sterben und dem Tod an den Rand nicht nur der individuellen, sondern auch der gesellschaftlichen Aufmerksamkeit gedrängt und schließlich ganz verdrängt.
Of the night, she told me, look for those we've lost in the magic, in the wind and in the light. And I felt the pain of the dying, knowing every loss was a death deep inside of me. And I felt powerless to stop it, but there's power in the morning and the grief. Marjorie, would you dance with me? I feel you standing at the back of me. Your eyes bring out the very best in me. Tucking in my shirt and singing, thank you, please, a pleasure to be seen. Now this is the beginning, and the beginning's always held back by a certain kind of heart. It's like no one's ever felt like this before, except for the scars across our hearts. A spider came to dance with me, her story stretching from the back of me. I was alone, but she was tracking me. In the shadows, hearing everything that I said silently. I sang into that ghostly breeze. Marjorie, would you dance with me? I feel you standing at the back of me. Your eyes bring out the very best in me. Tucking in my shirt and singing, thank you, please, a pleasure to be seen. and the beauty of the branches as they bend into the wind. She said, you'll find me in the way the wind caresses all the grasses and your skin.
So, you've been listening to the song Harriet by Erica Freas, and she's sitting right next to us here on the sofa. Hi, Erica.
Hi. Hi. Thanks for having me.
It's great to have you here. Yeah, this is the first time that we talk English in our podcast. It's very exciting. You know, we are doing this podcast because death is still kind of a big taboo in Germany. How is it in the US?
Well, I think that really depends, like, subculturally, greater culturally, how it is in the US. But in my world, I feel like we do talk about death a lot. I've experienced a lot of death in my community. And then I see, you know, the classic greater societal things, like people wanting to ward off death at every chance, like how much is it financially worth to stay alive as long as possible, you know, these sort of like societal conversations that are about avoiding it, avoiding aging, avoiding dying. So I think but I think that might be different than a taboo around talking about death, because death is being talked about, it just is in the context of how do you avoid it, you know?
Yeah.
Okay.
So maybe we can explain a little bit, because we introduced you before quickly. You're a musician and singer-songwriter, and also known from the hardcore punk band Reviver.
Yeah.
So the scene or the community that you're referring to is the punk or hardcore scene?
Yeah, I wouldn't say hardcore. I know that they are really blended here, but I would say just the punk scene in the States. The punk scene and the queer scene.
And do you have the feeling that dealing with death or talking about death or the experiences you have with death is different there or dealt with differently there than in the rest of the society?
That's an interesting question from two sides, because one is that I spend most of my time within the punk world, the queer world, and then like my family. So I don't know necessarily what the greater society is thinking or feeling beyond what I like read in like the news and the media and stuff like that. But I do think that, you know, like I've shared the experience of living through deaths that were impactful for those greater communities. With those, I've lived through that with those communities, with those of us that continue to survive after those deaths. So then we do learn together. There was a death in the hardcore scene, actually, in Olympia. It might have even been 2 years ago now. And I knew the person. They were very well cherished. And it was a suicide. But they weren't my immediate friend. They were kind of like the next younger group past my group. And I felt their death and I felt the grief, but it wasn't mine. Like, I didn't feel like it was my job to get drunk all night, break things. I knew that the next generation of hardcore kids and punk kids, they were going to have a big destructive party, throw themselves against the walls, fall into an alcohol binge that was going to last for a couple months, be impacted for years to come. I've lived through that. I don't need to do that anymore when my people die, because I have done that. And now I have different ways of dealing with the grief, you know?
So you think it's a way of dealing with the grief to get into a destructive alcohol binge?
I don't think that it has to be that way.
No, but it
obviously.
was in that community. Is that a thing people do in punk communities?
Because we don't have that experience.
No, it sounds almost ecstatic in a way.
It kind of is. The first time that I experienced, that is very, very interesting. I'm going to start asking you questions. But the first death by suicide that I experienced with my close friend group in punk, I was like 24, and we like all the punks within like a 3-city radius collected at this one punk house. We mourned for a week. We drank nonstop. We biked all over town in like these big crying masses of like 20 people. And
wow.
we were so sad, you know? It just was like, it had kind of like the markings of like a festival almost, except for that there was no happiness. We just were like looking into each other's eyes and just weeping and then drinking more alcohol. And we did a big memorial for her on a beach. There was probably like 30 of us sitting in a big circle, and somebody had the wherewithal. Somebody who was older, I think that she was like 30, had the wherewithal to kind of like give the ritual or the memorial some structure. And so we went around in a circle and said like our favorite memories. Oh, I could cry now thinking about it. It was so sad. The memories were beautiful. She was so weird and cool, and like people poured through her belongings. There's like she lived in the house that we all went to, so she had like journals and stuff. People would go up and spend time with her things.
Wow. Well, that sounds very beautiful.
It was. And when we left that memorial, all of us biking in this group of like, 20 or 30 people, we caused a car accident because it was like raining and kind of dark, and there was so many of us, and the car didn't expect us to be there, and there was like a rear ending. And I remember just being so sad and probably so drunk that I just was like, of course there was a car wreck, and continuing on. We didn't even like stop to deal with the car wreck at all. We just were like, that's life. Kept
But do you think you converted your grief into some kind of aggression then? Or was it not the case? Because it sounds like you dealt with this grief in a very expressive way.
Yeah.
And was it aggressive, or was it more really sad?
I didn't feel aggressive, but I know I had friends, there was like the smashing of things and like, like, ah, kind of expressions.
Yeah, that's anger, isn't it?
Maybe like punching a hole in a wall. You know what I mean? Just like, it's funny to describe it out in detail and have that not be the way that you have experienced coping with grief in a group.
I've never had that community experience, really. It's very much in a private, like family-like circle, it's always very contained with these rituals that are not really my rituals or rituals of a community, but more like, like a funeral and the way you have to behave at a funeral. So I find that really interesting.
Yeah.
I think the very first song from you that I came across dealing with death was Grandma, where you're talking about the death of your grandmother.
Yeah.
And I really like that line. I can read it out loud maybe for the people listening. You're saying, fighting the wish to make you stay, you have to go, and that's okay.
Yeah.
I really like that line, and maybe you can talk a bit about that.
Yeah. So Grandma, I wrote it around the time of my paternal grandma dying. And there was a history within that side of the family where she died suddenly in a car accident. She was probably 86, but she was still mentally and physically quite spry, which was not true of any of my other grandparents. But she died, like she probably shouldn't have been driving anymore, but she was. And they got in a car wreck, and my dad and his siblings had to decide to pull the life support from her because her body was destroyed in a way that she wouldn't recover from, especially at 86.
Yeah, sure. Oh.
And she would have been, there was no way to confirm with her, but they knew that she would have hated being kept on life support. She would have been like, what the hell are you doing to me? Just let me go. And her mom had a similar thing happen where she had been hit by a car at quite an old age, and they had kept her on life support, even though they knew that she wouldn't have wanted to stay on life support because she also was like a stubborn, strong woman. But the taboo is then you are killing your relative, even though I fully disagree with that. And that's why it's an important conversation to have
before you're in that position. But so there was some, this feeling in my family of, this is interesting to have kind of like an ancestral repetition of the same circumstance. And it's okay that it's time to go. None of us were ready because it wasn't like a cancer or like a slow coming. It was just a surprise. And that was hard, but it's okay. It was time. And it was better than keeping her alive artificially in a way that she would have been furious about if she had the ability to express how she was feeling.
So that's where that line comes from. And how did you deal with the grief in your family? Was it completely different to what you just described?
Oh,
in
yeah.
the community?
Yeah.
How did you do that?
Also, lots of open crying.
Wow.
But my family is pretty sensitive. And many months later, because everybody's scattered across the entire continent of the United States, we met up on the East Coast, which is, like 4,000 miles away from where I live. And she had a burial plot in like rural Pennsylvania. And we had like all of the aunts and uncles, all of the cousins, and then all of the next generation of what would be like my nephews and nieces and stuff. They're present at her memorial.
So it was huge.
Well, it wasn't. It still felt intimate because it wasn't like all of her extended community. It was just biological family. So there was probably like, 15 of us,
Yeah.
And was that, because you told me that you sat by the body of your grandmother for some hours, was that?
That was on my mom's side. Yeah.
And is that something people do in the US, like to sit with a dead body?
No, I think that's pretty radical. And also there's some legality stuff. Yeah, I don't think you're just allowed to keep a dead body around.
Yeah, there are. I mean, in Germany, there are restrictions too on how many hours you can keep people in the house, and then they need to be transferred to something, to a facility. But so how come you did it anyway?
Well, okay, so that is my other grandma, and she had dementia and Alzheimer's for the last probably 12 years of her life, and it was some amount of time greater than 6 years, but the last 5 or 6 years she was actually in a care facility. And she had great body faculty and bad mental faculty, so she was pretty strong and pretty able-bodied while her mind was gone, which was a really hard combination because it made her way more difficult to care for. So my mom moved her to our town and then visited her many times a week, would go take a shower with her at the facility because she was too squirmy and the people working wouldn't be expected to get naked and take a shower with her. So my mom in her 60s was doing that with her mom. It was really both hard and so intimate to have this exchange of care. But anyway, over those 6 years, she withered until she was chair bound, and then she moved to a smaller facility where she was bed bound. And then my sister, Kendra, who is quite into end of life care, I think she'll end up being a hospice worker at some point. She had the idea, what if we brought her home? What if we brought Ginny, my grandma, home to Kay, my mom's house? And we talked about it, and then the plan happened really fast. And she was obviously living in so much pain. She had so much morphine, but she was grinding her teeth so much. But we couldn't know what exactly it was that was hurting her because her body was just this. It was she was turning into a little tree gnarl, her hands were so clenched and her legs were all pulled up tight, and she was in a bed wearing diapers. And so she lived at my mom's house for about a week, where we all had the chance to spend extra time with her. My mom could just kiss her on the forehead every time she walked by. It was really therapeutic, really healing. And then she died a week later.
In your house?
In my mom's house, yeah. And my mom was able to sit up with her all night as she went through the death labor, which isn't just she was moaning and having that death rattle in your lungs,
Yeah.
In that week, I got to play her the song Grandma.
Wow.
which I was like, I never played it for her in the care home because I didn't want to be like performative in front of everybody else, but at home I was able to. It was it was so healing.
So you were there too for the last week of your grandma's life?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah. And we wrestled with some guilt because she was obviously in pain, and the women that were caring for her at the care home, they could change her diaper so fast. And we were like, you know, changing her diaper as often as we could so that she wasn't laying in her own, you know, but she was also in pain. And we were like, are we causing her more pain? Are we doing this for us or for her? But then when she passed so quickly, we thought it was for her. Like she was on some level aware that she was surrounded by family. We were ready for her to go. We weren't waiting. And she was able to go. Oh God, it felt so, like for years we'd been like, what are you holding on for? It's miserable for you here. Mm-hmm. I thought that it was really smart of Kendra, my sister, to.
So you think she might have been holding on for just to feel safe enough to go?
Maybe safe enough, or maybe like, I don't know, like unsettled enough, or because dementia and Alzheimer's are like,
yeah, but that's the thing about, you don't know, you know, like you don't know if people are still processing something or not, or
and
if
you
they're just
fucking hope they are not. You know?
Yeah. But that's a mystery, you know, when people decide to go, or if they even decide, or if it just happens, you don't know. But how was that to sit next to the body of your grandmother? Like, did you feel that she changed in that time, or did things happen, or how did it feel?
Yeah, she looked. You mean, how did her dead body look? She looked like she was made out of wax, you know, like. Have you ever sat with a dead body?
I haven't.
No, I haven't either.
But you've seen dead bodies.
I've seen dead bodies, yeah.
I had never seen a dead body before. Or, you know, maybe I had from a distance, but never somebody that I was like holding the hand, kissing the cheek, hugging, being like, I love this dead body. Or I love the person that inhabited it, you know. But she looked like, where she had been pink, she looked yellow. You know, she just looked like drained. And she wasn't stiff yet, but then she did become stiff. It was interesting. Or like she had been holding her jaw really tense with that teeth grinding, and then everything was relaxed. Different face shape, different skin.
So you could really feel that the person who was there isn't anymore?
Yeah. You could feel it when you touched her. You could see it from across the room. She didn't look like she was sleeping. She looked like she was dead.
Yeah, that must have been really intense.
It was, but it also was like, you know, it is like birth, you know? You like do the work to leave the life just like you do the work to come into it. I felt just like really, you know, I love her so much and I'm going to miss her forever. I was so relieved for her that she was done with this like 10-year on this life, you know?
It's such a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow, so you've had quite a few death experiences.
Yeah, I've had a lot of death experiences.
I wanted to ask you a bit about the song that you played, Harriet. My favorite line is, of course, there's power in the mourning and the grief.
Yeah.
In what way do you think there's power in it?
Okay, that line specifically is about like actually going through those expressions of grief, you know, whether like instead of buckling down, trying to be strong, trying to not cry, trying to not have your life fall apart, trying to whatever it is that you're trying to do to avoid blast that is experiencing the grief of death, you know, that it actually is, you know, it's powerful to go through mourning and to go through grief because you're learning, you're changing, your life is going to be changed. And I don't think that that is a process that you can, like if you, well, we were talking about this the other day, if you try to skip it, it's going to catch up with you later. Like maybe if there's another death in your life, you're going to grieve twice.
Yeah, that's interesting because we're talking a lot about these because Susanne and I, we have very different ways of dealing with death and with grief. And we're talking a lot about that. If you're trying to skip it, or if you move on like you did before pretty much, and you feel that nothing has really changed, or you need that structure, if that's really grieving, or if it's not, or if it's a way of grieving without really knowing. I think it's a really interesting.
Maybe it's grieving with the handbrakes on. It just takes you a bit longer.
Yeah. Which sometimes is, I mean, it's not like you always can afford in life to just throw yourself into the wind and be like, I'm as fucking sad as I really am.
But I really wished that I'd had a community like you just described in the beginning of our conversation that totally threw me. It sounded like some oriental or exotic thing that people do.
Just American punk.
I was like, wow. I wish there would have been a thing comparable to that. You just have lots of people and you just don't need to give a shit.
I have to say, when you told that story, I totally thought, Susanne, that would have been the perfect thing for Susanne.
It would have been a perfect thing for me. Yeah, there would be no need to hold on to anything because everybody's just letting go and caring for each other, but still. Wrong grammar, but you know what I mean.
No, totally.
The one thing I wanted to ask, and I forgot before, is did it have to do with the way that the person died?
I think that suicide is the hardest.
Yeah, so it was suicide too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you can't help but wonder, what if you had done something different? Which I don't think is very fair to wonder, because it's everybody's individual choice. Like if somebody reaches their limit, their wit's end, like it's our responsibility to grieve, but it's not our responsibility to have saved them, you know?
No.
But I do think that, especially back then, when I'd lived through less people I care about killing themselves, I was like fixated on, oh my God, I didn't call her.
Yeah.
Oh my God, when I went on that trip and we ended up in the same place, I didn't even know, so I didn't reach out, and she probably thought I didn't like her. You know, like, just all that, you know, all over and over again. But if somebody dies, like, I do think that in whatever way death comes, you mourn according to the manner of death.
Yeah.
Because
that's why I was wondering, because there was so much anger in what you described. And that's, I felt reminded of what I felt because I have had 2 suicides in my family, and I just wish that people would throw themselves against the wall and just let it out a bit. All this anger is hard to deal with, combined with the grief.
Yeah, and also suicide is a very such a violent way of dying, and and so it kind of seems appropriate, you know, to go somewhere with all that violence and that anger that it produces.
To express violence, Oh.
Susanne is impressed.
I'm impressed. I'm very impressed. I like it.
I also think that it's not, you know, productive, but who cares, that it's totally fine for there to be so much anger that they did that, because, you know, fuck you, you left us here, like, fuck you, you didn't fucking call me, fuck you, so-and-so had to find you, like, all that stuff where you're just like...
And actually, I think it's really healthy to let this anger out, because, I don't know, I couldn't really find that anger, and I can't really find it until today, and I'm pretty sure it must be somewhere when my ex-boyfriend killed himself, because there was so much, you know, dealing with other things, also with guilt and with the hopelessness of that decision and everything. I felt that it was very buried somewhere. I don't know. And
And here's the thing, and I think, that's my question to you. Do you think it has anything to do with you being a punk community? Because, you know, in punk songs, anger is always a big thing. It's always about expressing or letting it out, or expressing your unwellness with the world in anger. Do you think it makes it easier, maybe, or it just makes it more naheliegend, whatever that is?
Nihilist?
Yeah.
no.
Not nihilist. No, more close, I don't know.
it's the, like, it seems like the logic
The next
way
thing.
or the
Oh, yeah,
way to
like
go.
an inevitability.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, I think two things about that. I think that one, punk and also like punkish queer culture, like radical queer culture, attracts people that do feel like misfit to the world. And that's valid. And it is like fantastic to find a community of people where not only do you fit, but you are like beautiful exactly as you are, and you're like, can be, you know, expressing similar things and angry at the same things. And, you know, you've got validation and representation. I think that is so important. And then I do think that I personally get angry at punk and also sometimes radical queer culture, but in a different way, for glorifying that kind of like being so fucked up and being so desperate and hopeless. And I have experienced and I have heard other people express that it feels like you're not really allowed to do better, that you're not really like allowed to feel healthy, because then you aren't really authentically a misfit. And I personally think that it is so hard to be happy in this lifetime that why wouldn't you, if you are achieving happiness, why wouldn't you welcome it? Because it feels good, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow, that's very interesting.
Yeah, but I think I totally get that, you know, that it gets kind of this destructive dynamic that you just have to stay in, otherwise you don't belong.
Yeah, and you finally found some place where you do belong.
Yeah.
But I have noticed also that in the same way that like when, it's interesting that we just are keeping, it's focused around this one death when I was 24, but at that time, when that was my first time living through such, because I've had plenty of other people that I've been closer to than that die of suicide since then. That one was so monumentous. And I noticed that my friends who were also punk, who were like closer to 30 or over 30, were so much calmer. Like one friend who I love so dearly, who was really good friends with that woman, was like, I knew this was how she was going to go. She talked about it all the time. And he was really sad, but he wasn't like, this is totally out of the blue. Or there was the friend that I talked about that had the wherewithal to know, to give structure to that memorial. Like, and those friends had lived through a couple other experiences. So you do accumulate more of like a resilience in the world, even when you are still living in punk. Like I think that you are extra kind of like thin and, I don't know what, like vulnerable when you're in your early 20s.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you about that because in the beginning you said that, you know, in your 20s, this was a way of dealing with death in that punk community and with expressing anger and stuff, and that you found other ways of dealing with it. Like, can you tell us a bit about these ways?
Yeah. Writing music really helps for me. You know, so now I'm like in my mid-30s, and when somebody important to us dies, the group is a lot smaller. People aren't really like traveling from the nearest two cities. But like over the past couple of years, when somebody that we really care about has died, we have rituals. Like we'll go to the train tracks, which is like a kind of like scrappy, not official park by the water. We'll drink a little, but not like, you know, it's like a couple beers and not like so many beers that we're like carrying one of us home. We might burn some things. We might throw some things into the water. We might throw beer bottles into the water and then try to break them with rocks. You know, and then I've got some other friends that when somebody dies, they always go to the same bar and they get a snake shot, which is totally disgusting. It's like alcohol.
Cider. It's cider, isn't it?
No, it's like white alcohol with a snake inside the bottle.
Oh my God.
So gross. But we just, you know, it's like similar rituals, but it's not as overtaking, you know? It's important to mourn, but you're still going to probably do whatever you need to do tomorrow and not like postpone your life for the next month.
So you think it's lifetime dependent, the way you express your grief and your mourning?
You mean like where we are in life?
Yeah.
I think it's more about accumulated experiences, which
maybe.
happens to match up with.
That's very true. Sometimes. Some people are very resilient when they're 20
Yeah, totally.
because they've had experience. Yeah, okay.
Yeah. And some people haven't experienced very much death when they are in their 40s, and then they have to go through that.
Yeah.
We
when
had
the
a
death
couple
comes.
of guests in our podcast who were in their 50s and didn't experience a lot of deaths, which
haven't
is
been
really
kissed by death.
interesting. They haven't been kissed by death yet, which is really interesting. And I just wanted to say I find it really astonishing that you have these rituals, because we don't have them.
No.
I don't know if I hang out in the wrong communities.
No,
but
we're here to establish rituals, Carol. That's why we sit here and talk about stuff, so people can think about stuff and maybe come up with their own rituals.
But don't you find it interesting, Suzanne?
I find
Because
it very interesting.
I mean, I don't know any people who have rituals like that. Like, we're all, okay, someone's dead, so
Yeah.
now what?
Yeah, now we're all really sad, or we need to go drink a lot.
And then we go
that's
to
it.
the funeral, and that's it.
Yeah.
So we should really establish some rituals.
Go people, establish your rituals.
Yeah. I mean, you guys don't ever like write messages to the dead person and burn them? Write messages to the dead person, throw them in the water so that they can just go wash away?
No.
Do you need to do that in a community, or can you do that
No,
by
you
yourself?
can do it on your own, yeah. Other things you can... all of these are about writing messages. That doesn't have to be that. Planting things that then can grow.
Yeah.
Yeah, we did that. Yeah.
I'm more on the throwing beer bottles and smashing them.
Yeah.
I would like that.
Yeah, I want to know after the podcast. I want to hear what you guys do, because this is incredibly interesting to me.
Is it a cultural thing, or is it really a thing about communities and scenes? And I don't get it. I really don't.
I think that it is a greater cultural thing. I think that I'm squarely within the communities that we've talked about. But like if I think about my mom and her friends, yeah, like I haven't been to very many traditional funerals in my lifetime, but I have a lot of people who have died, and I've been at a lot of public gatherings about those people. And they're all different forms of expressing publicly and outwardly that we're sad, that we lost somebody that meant a lot to us, you know?
That's really cool.
Wow. I don't think German people are so much into expressing sadness publicly.
Yeah.
I think it's true.
Expressing emotions publicly.
But I think that it's so good for you because it validates that that's normal.
Yes.
That your grief is like based absolutely in reality. We're all going to be born. We're all going to die. And those of us that are left behind through those deaths are going to have to like reconfigure our lives without those elements that have passed on.
Yeah.
There was a woman who was murdered in Olympia earlier this year, and it seemed very clearly like a racially motivated murder, but the police weren't, if you just can't get them to care that they're like, she was drunk, or they were being so fucked up. Like everybody was calling them. It is so rare for like a 55-year-old woman to be murdered in Olympia. Like, why don't you care about that? That could be so dangerous for other people. Like, what? Why aren't you paying attention? And so there was a memorial for her that was like part memorial for her beautiful life, where I learned a lot about her and, was able to see what a loss to our community this person that I didn't know represented because they had passed on in this horrible way. And also it was part awareness raising and activism. But because the family allowed it to be a public awareness raising thing, we all got to be privy to their grief. I was crying. They got up and spoke about her personally, shared their intimate and beautiful details about her with us. There was like people that were funny. There was people that were sad. There was like, at one point, people threw out a blanket and people put like donations for the family, but also like any sort of like gifts or messages. And that piled up.
Wow.
There was like flowers piling up They let balloons off, which I hate when people let balloons off because it leaves plastic in the water. But I was like so grateful to this family that they were grateful that we all were there so that we could be helping to make it a louder thing, that her death wasn't being taken seriously by the justice system. But then we all were given this gift of getting to witness their grief.
Wow. That sounds really beautiful.
It was really beautiful.
I think we're already over time, aren't we?
Well, yes, we are.
So I think we have one more question for you, because we have that
Questionnaire.
questionnaire that we didn't write, but Max Frisch wrote. And he wrote very, very weird questions about death. And every guest gets one of these questions. We wanted to ask you the question number 12. Mm-hmm. What bothers you when it comes to funerals?
Christianity.
That's a good answer.
I love it.
Especially if the person who died was not. If the person who died is into Christianity, good for them. They're getting the thing. But especially when people apply an overlay of Christianity on a life that was maybe not participating in that, but especially if a life was against that. Oh, it's so rude.
Thank you very much, Erica.
Thank you for coming to us and talking to us.
Yeah, thank you. And I think tomorrow is going to be New Year's Eve. So Happy New Year, everybody. Yeah. And goodbye.
Wir werden alle sterben. Und deshalb will ich dich heute. Ja, deshalb will ich dich heute. Ja, deshalb will ich dich heute noch sehen.
Endlich. Vorbei.